to the Folsom Frenzy podcast. I'm here with Jake, Sreyas, and Chase, and we have some takes after the great Rocky Mountain Showdown where your Buffaloes were victorious 28-9. And honestly, it was a pretty dominant showing in just about every phase of football. We showed great improvement, great steps, but we actually had boots on the ground. So, Sreyas, take it away. Tell us about what it was like in Canvas Stadium.
Yeah, it was a fun experience. I'm glad we finally got to get up there. We were hoping to go play that game in 2020 before COVID and all the chaos that came with that. So it was nice to finally get up there. I had been meaning to make it up to Fort Collins to go catch a game, even if it wasn't us for a while. It's a very nice stadium. I really like what they did with it. It was fun. There weren't as many CU fans as some people were expecting. It definitely was a very partisan CSU crowd. I would say at least 75-25, if not 80-20. But they were very quiet. And that's not because they weren't there to show up and support their team. It's just because there wasn't much for them to celebrate in the whole game. It was pretty dominant. I would say, like, being in the stadium, it sounds like some of you guys may have had a slightly different experience watching it on TV, but even though the offense did start out slow, as soon as we scored once, it felt a lot like when Nebraska scored once last week, where it's just, okay, we can put the foot down and we can just kind of dominate them. This is a good matchup for us, which I was concerned about. There was a lot riding on this for CU. Losing this game would have been devastating, and it would have been a big blow to the rebuilding hopes that this program is really hoping to get back. But it was great being out there. Of course, there's going to be some fights. I saw a couple fights, just students, inebriated students fighting each other over petty stuff and just general insecurity. I think that's where a lot of the rivalry is. There's just like a general insecurity that people have about what school they go to, and I don't know. I think enough time's passed since college that I can't get that riled up about it anymore. Especially when we're so dominant like this. That's what I want out of these games. I don't want to go to these games and sweat it out like last year and feel nervous and sick to my stomach like we're about to lose. I want to go, watch a Power 4 team dominate a group of six, not group of six. I mean, Pac-12, whatever. Pac-12 is not really a power conference at this point either way.
Still group of six.
Yeah, group of six. That's exactly what you want. Like, you want to go to this game, you want to feel good, not keep it close to the end, and then move on to conference play. So it was a great time. I had a great time. We went out in Fort Collins a little bit afterwards, hung out with some CSU fans there too. They're chill, no problems. I had a great time. I loved it.
And then Sreyas got in a huge fist fight after that.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I'm totally the type of person that would do that. That was good. I just
one other thing you said, Sreyas, in our chat. This is a minor thing in the stadium. Is you said you really appreciated the sound.
Yeah, I thought so.
The sound quality.
It's interesting. It must have been different in different parts of the stadium. I saw some people on Twitter today complaining a little bit about the sound. Maybe it's too loud in some parts, but to me, it was great. It was great being able to hear what the PA was saying. It was great being able to hear who got the tackle. It was great being able to follow that game. And then I got to say, shout out to CSU for a really cool between the third quarter and fourth quarter light show that they put together, because they got the LED lights going.
Mm-hmm.
So it reminded me a lot of being at Oregon. So I went to Autzen back in 2019 and they did a very similar thing. And it was great. It was very, very cool. I hope that we can implement something like that in Folsom at some point. Overall, I will say it's the stadium is definitely more modern and the amenities are nice. But the thing that really stands out about Folsom that becomes so apparent when you go to any other stadium, especially even if it's in the same state, is the Flatirons. The Flatirons just pop out. Like, they're just in your face. You can see them from just about everywhere in the stadium. And as Fort Collins still in Colorado, it's a nice city. I really like it up there. I love going up there, but it doesn't hit the same. And maybe I'm biased, but man, it just doesn't hit the same. And that's what we got going for us. And I'm excited for the 100-year celebration coming up, so we can really celebrate Folsom as she turns a century old. Can you believe that? It's crazy.
Now, Sreyas, I saw a tweet that was talking about how I think it's the north end of the stadium is kind of just open. And it kind of makes it so that the stadium sound dies, right? You're a sound engineer. Did you kind of experience that? I mean, obviously CSU wasn't very loud because of what they couldn't cheer for, but I don't know if you experienced like the sound dying
Yeah,
out of that end of the end zone.
I actually no. Now that you mention it, I did because I was on the north side for that game, and it doesn't seem like, at least from where I was, the sound really gets held in super well in that stadium. I did see some video down at the field level that made it seem kind of loud. Actually, funny enough, it sounded like the CU fans were really loud down at the field level. I think I saw a well-off clip earlier today that really, I mean, those fans were really loud. I was surprised because it just didn't seem like it from up there. But yeah, as far as loud environments, if you think of the stadium as being a similar shape and size to Autzen, to Rice Eccles in Utah, to the stadium, Amon G. Carter Stadium in Fort Worth, those are probably similar like shape, and Autzen's a little bit bigger, but capacity wise pretty similar. But all those other stadiums are way, way louder. So, and maybe part of that's just because CSU never really gained their footing. They didn't have big plays. They didn't have those moments that really stand out for setting their personal attendance record. But that side of it, the Rams definitely have a long way to go. I think the pieces are there. They just really need to put together a team that makes their fans proud. And that's not that team. And I don't think Norvell's that coach either. They just looked really unprepared.
They did indeed. But speaking of things we can be proud of, let's move into our offense and offensive play calling. And I'll actually go to the Pat Shurmur defender first. Chase, what did you think of our offense last night?
Yeah, thank you, Topher. It was exciting to see that David Talks Buff is also not only a friend of the podcast, but a fellow Pat Shurmur defender. And
great content, by the way. Go check out his stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh no, 100%. Yeah, absolutely. But what a night and day difference as far as play calling. I think people just, if you had told Jake that it was Mickey Mouse or Jesus Christ calling that offense, he would have loved it. But because he knows that it's Pat Shurmur, he has to hate it. And I think
you don't even know how to pronounce his name.
If you look at that, or Shurmur, yeah. If you look at that game, like the run balancing, now it helps to have a running back who, and we'll give him a shout out here in just a minute, but helps to have a running back that was out there. And frankly, this is probably the worst team we're going to play all year. So that helps as well. But I thought that was a balanced attack. I think we didn't panic. Things didn't really turn out for us in that first drive, but we turned it around. I actually thought that Shedeur, I was a little surprised, and maybe, I'd be curious to hear what you guys thought about this, but Shedeur took a couple series to kind of get established, it felt like, which kind of surprised me, but we stuck with what was working for us. We made the run work for us. And it's crazy. If you run for 8 yards on first down, it is insane how much easier it is to pick up a first down on second and third down, and you can use your weapons. And I thought we did a great job of using our weapons. I thought we did a good job, and this is what I defended him with last week was, you get the ball into the guys who can make plays, into their hands, and they will make plays. And for the most part, that's what happened. I'm trying to remember. We had some pretty ugly drop passes, overthrow. Shedeur was overthrowing a little bit, which is just not really his forte. I was kind of surprised by that. But overall, I thought the play calling, the running game was fantastic. I mean, Travis is an absolute lunatic monster out there. He's just unbelievable. And when it looked like he was going to be out for a couple minutes after he made that heroic tackle, I think we were all holding our breath there for a second. But turns out even Travis Hunter needs to take a break between absolutely dominating on both sides of the ball. So yeah, I don't know. I thought the play calling was great. That was a really fun game to watch as someone who was really frustrated. I think, anyone listening to this would agree that was exactly what we thought it would be. That was the game I expected when I bet my foot last season. Like that is exactly what I thought was going to happen in Folsom last year. And that is what that game should look like with the talent that we have on this team. And so it was really refreshing. I think the O-line played a lot better. It was a worse team. So, I'm still not 100% convinced, but do want to give, Jordan Seaton and those guys a shout out as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was a very impressive performance overall. I know we're talking offense here, but I was definitely worried about the offense at the beginning of the game. And we'll get to the defense, but I'll say the biggest thing that gave me comfort, that made me never feel like the game was slipping away like it did last year, was just the defense and how well they played. Offensively, I loved seeing LaJohntay Wester get into the action. he came out and said it after the game. He really, really wanted to show up this week and show his capability. He had a huge year at FAU last year, and he had a pretty good game in the season opener against North Dakota State, but he hadn't had that big breakout game. And I think that was that for him, even though I think Travis Hunter still led us in rreceiving yards, but he had a great game, and it was really nice seeing him get involved. Also have to give a shout out to Michael Welch. We talked about this in our personal group chat, but what always worried me about the CU running game and why I wasn't super hard on the play calling, not going to the run, is all the negative plays. And we did have a few negative plays, but the big thing for me is if you can at least get 1 or 2 yards at least and not just take TFL after TFL, if you can break away and get a big 20, 30-yard gain, then all of a sudden your running game is balanced, and then all of a sudden now you're keeping the defense honest, which is exactly what Shedeur needs. You don't want to get into a situation where the defense can just say, all right, I'm going to sell out. I'm just going to blitz every play. I'm going to attack Shedeur. I'm not going to even respect the run game. I'm not even going to give it a shot. And in order to get to that point, you have to get positive yards. You have to get positive yards. And I thought they did a pretty good job of that in that game. Michael Welch, when Dallin Hayden gets back, I think that's going to be your stable. We're going to see those two guys get a lot of the action, and I think that they're both talented, and they have the ability to do some damage in the Big 12, especially, talk about this later, the Big 12 is a bit of a step back, it looks like, in strength of schedule, overall strength of schedule, than the Pac-12 was the last 2 years. Jake, what do you think? You've been quiet. I know you got thoughts.
I have been quiet because I guess I'll be the contrarian view on this whole podcast. But before I get into being a little bit more negative Nancy, first wanted to say huge win in a must-win game. If the Buffs didn't win this game, I don't even want to know what the national media would do to us.
The wheels fall off the bus. The
Yeah,
wheels fall off the bus.
The bus is gone at that point. Like people are going to be calling for Coach Prime's head, and it's just going to be ugly. So great win, a dominating win in a must-win game. I was saying before we started, this one felt like we beat CSU like Nebraska beat us, right? They dominated us. We dominated CSU, which was really nice. I thought it was kind of a boring game, which is great. It should be. Should be against this CSU team. And also give it up for the defense. I know we'll talk to them a little bit later, but the defense looked awesome. And the offensive line and Michael Welch, standing ovation. No sacks given up by that offensive line. You saw Shedeur and Travis invite him to the post-game press conference, which is awesome. You saw Philip Lindsay do that back in 2016. So love seeing that. Offensive line played great. Running game played great. Let me read Micah's stats real quick because dude was balling out. He had 9 carries for 65 yards. Average yards per carry was 7.2. And then he had that long run of 25 yards. Now the negative. I still don't love the offensive play calling to this day. I still don't like it. I am not a Pat Shurmur defender because here's the deal. Take a step back. It was 28 points against CSU. 7 of those points, we got the ball from an interception on the 10-yard line. So I'm going to throw that out the window, even though it is good to get a touchdown. That is all on the offense. Like, good job to get a touchdown there. But 21 points against CSU, that's not the best. Like, I want this team to be dominating, right?
Is it
like,
Pat
look at
Shurmur's
Texas.
fault Shedeur overthrows his receiver by 5
It's
yards?
not.
That would have
The
been
play
a clear
calling
Is it
touchdown.
Pat
so
Shurmur's fault
bad.
when Travis Hunter drops the slant that Shedeur threaded the needle through?
Yeah. Was that? Then there was another drop.
Will
by-
Shepherd. I think Will
Shepherd
Shepherd.
had a couple drops. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it Pat
but the
Shurmur's
play-
fault when what's his face fumbles? Like,
Jake, I think you
now
were definitely
Topher's a Pat Shurmur defender, huh?
you're
Am I
definitely right.
alone?
this
here?
game was much better. This game
Jake,
was much better.
Well, let me finish my thought here.
Yeah.
It drives me nuts that they never have any plays under center. And I don't know why that is. And I'm very curious. I'm going to try to ask around and see why Shedeur doesn't like to line up under center. Maybe it's the obvious reason because their offensive line isn't the best. But still, like, if you're going to run the football, line up under center. And they're doing more of the pistol formation with the running backs behind the quarterback. It's still a shotgun set, but the running back at least has some time to gain some speed. And that worked really well. Michael Welch was able to run outside of the tackles, which really worked well. And just averaging 7 yards per carry, and I know that's inflated by the 125-yard run. keep feeding him. He only had 9 carries. I want to see at least 20 plus runs in this game. And granted, they were close. I think they had 17 across all 3 backs. Keep feeding Michael Welch. Isaiah Augustave also had a phenomenal game at an average of 5 yards per carry as well. I don't think it's a running back talent issue because Dallin Hayden, I think, might still be our best back. And if I was him, I'd be really bummed I wasn't able to get in there just with my injury. But they just need to keep feeding the run game. I really do not think our offensive line is as bad as people make it out to be. And I think we have no lack in running game talent. I just think the play call just drives me nuts. And I know this game made it very obvious that I think it's more Shedeur. It's a lot of run pass options, and you can see Shedeur is pulling back the ball from Micah and is throwing the screen or throwing the short route or whatever it is. You could tell it's RPO, and a lot of it's on Shedeur seeing something and wanting to make the play. And I got to give it to him. He makes the play a lot. Like when it was first and goal, I think it might have been after the touchdown, or we were on the 1 yard line and we were in a shotgun formation. I'm like, what are we doing? It's first down and you're on the 1 yard line. I think it was first down. Maybe correct me guys if I'm wrong, but they're on the 1 yard line. We're in a shotgun. I'm just like running up the middle, but then sure enough, Shedeur hits Travis on the slant, easy touchdown. So like, hey, if it works, it works. I don't know. I still have mixed thoughts. I think they just need to run more pro style formations, put a tight end in there, put 2 tight ends in there, and just run the football because I think we have the talent.
Let me follow up on a couple of those things. One, and I think this might be what Topher is also going to follow up on, but as far as the taking it out of the shotgun, I could just tell you after playing O-line, it's probably almost guaranteed a Shedeur preference as far as receiving the snap and whatever's comfortable for getting the ball back there. Because what's worse than not snapping it where you should be is fumbling the snap after your O-line, your center is not comfortable with you under center. And if Shedeur clearly has a preference for the shotgun, and if that's what he needs to be comfortable, I think that's probably fine. I don't know if that's necessarily an offensive coordinator thing. The other thing
it's definitely his preference, but like if you're a coach, you can overstep that.
You can't, but I just don't think it's worth
also
it.
Like for his NFL stock, I'm surprised they're not running him a little bit under center more. Because if I'm a scout,
how many NFL quarterbacks are taking snaps under center other than
it's more than college, though.
It's surprised. It's a lot more than college, but at the same time, Shedeur's taken 1 snap under center this season and he fumbled it. It was on a QB sneak on 4th down. And he fumbled it and we didn't get it. So you ask why we don't take snaps under center? Clearly, Shedeur hates taking snaps under center and he's not good at it. So why would we do it?
And then on the RPO thing, it is so much more challenging for an offensive line. And I get, running RPO is great for his draft stock, but at the college level, especially if your offensive line is not confident, running an RPO is so much more challenging because they have to essentially pass block in case they're running. And that's why you're seeing a lot of these TFLs on the run game is I have to step back and defend as if it's going to be a pass. And if he sees that there's a hole there for the running back, that's fine. But for the running game to really succeed, and what we saw in this game is you let your O lineman charging downhill, get moving downhill, and it works. So I think, to your point, Jake, and you've been saying this, and fortunately, our Lord and Savior Pat Shurmur has realized this is, we've got to be letting the run block and just go for it. And frankly, our wide receivers have done a pretty good job as well on the run blocking. Our running backs have done a really good job in pass protection. So, there's a lot to like about what's going on here, but I do think like running those RPOs, yes, it's very high IQ. Yes, it can work. I don't think it works for this team. And so maybe we just need to do more true running, but those are my 2 quick responses to you, Jake.
Man, I can't believe you said our Lord and Savior, Pat Shurmur. That hurts.
That's getting clips. Here's the thing, Jake, right? Like, I disagree with your assessment. This last game, we didn't run RPO very much at all. When we ran the ball, we ran the ball. We ran pistol. We ran off the left, off of Jordan Seaton, off of Tyler Brown, and they were moving guys.
That's because when we were RPOing, it wasn't a run. It was a throw.
But when we RPO, like your RPO reads, those are play actions. I don't think we've gone to RPO at all, right? Like I think we've eliminated that. I'm pretty sure they looked at the Nebraska film the same way I did and go, we're not good at this. We can play action off of it, but it's never going to be a handoff in an RPO situation anymore. Right? It is just asking way too much of our O-line to reach block like that. So we're just going to tell them, hey, we're just pass blocking every time. When we call this, it's just a pass block. And running back, expect to come and hit someone after you take that fake handoff, because we're going to run the ball out of pistol. We're going to run off that left side with Tyler Brown and Jordan Seaton. That was where we had the most success basically all night. Jordan Seaton played a hell of a game. He would engage his block and then just move him and just seal that edge. And Micah was all like, oh, I could drive a bus through here, right? And it's just a simple thing of calling an off tackle or off guard run. So like you can move forward and like engage and not worry about getting a penalty for an illegal man downfield. That was the biggest difference for the run game this year. And to your point of we need to call more runs. Here's the thing: Shedeur Sanders went 36 of 49. That is 74%, 73% of his passes were completed with a QB rating of 67.5. Right? For every run that you are doing, more is one less opportunity for Shedeur to be that efficient.
Someone made a good point too about like the screens being kind of like a simulated run game in a form, right? You're trying to get the ball outside to your playmakers who you think and expect to be a lot faster than the playmakers on the defensive side, right? So if we actually went back and split out his throws and look at how many of those throws are shorter throws, screens, that type of thing, and then incorporate that into the running stats, if you think of it that way, it might be a new way to evaluate this team rather than just the straight runs up the middle. The key, though, is we need the positive yards. Like, we have to get the positive yards. And all you guys have pointed out the RPO stuff in the past. And this time when I went back and watched when I got home and watched kind of like the 10-minute extended highlight version, there were definitely some tackles for loss that were initiated by RPO. There was one in particular that stood out. I can't remember when it was in the game, but I was like, oh, there it is. You guys have been talking about it all season. I mean, second half of the season last year and the first couple of games this year, and there it is right in front of me. It just happened. So with that in mind, I think overall I like what I see. It is a little bit better mix than what it is before. Jake, you're right. Like, overall, what I said last week, our offense not being good enough. We're going to have to play some shootouts in the Big 12, right? There are some really good offenses. Like Texas Tech put up 66 points this weekend. That's a lot. That's a lot of points. Like I know I think they're playing North Texas. How
many did they put up against Abilene Christians, Reyes?
It was like 52.
Not very many.
Yeah, it was a lot. No,
yeah, they scored 52 points in that game. It was a shootout game. So yeah. There's a lot of
my anti-Texas Tech. There's
a lot of high-scoring offenses in this conference, like the TCU and who did TCU play? The TCU game, TCU UCF game. It was like a 35-34 type game. We're gonna have to figure out a way to score a lot more and be quicker with it.
Look, 21 points isn't enough against CSU, and this is my final thought. It's one-dimensional. If we're running the pistol, get ready for the run. And if we're in the shotgun, get ready for the pass. And if we do a draw out of the shotgun, fine. Let it happen. That's my thing. I don't know if this is going to work against a good defense. CSU is not a good defense. We'll see. I could be wrong. I hope I am wrong.
Yeah, CSU is just they're not a good team. I don't think that any Ram fans would feel bad about me saying that. I saw a lot of calling for Jay Norvell to be in the hot seat after the game, and rightfully so. This is year 3 for them. You really, especially if you're bringing in a lot of your guys that had that success at Nevada, which he did, like Torrey Horton was a Nevada transfer, and you bring those guys in. You have a sophomore quarterback that just claimed that he was going to get poached by a Power 4 school with a $600,000 NIL deal or something. Like, you hear all that, it's like, okay, come on, you're going to show up at home to your most hyped game and lay an egg like that? Really? So to that extent, we can put this behind us sort of deal, this game. The real test begins with the Big 12 conference games next week, and then we'll really get a better idea of what's going on. Took care of business, but Jake, I think you're onto something. Like, there are definitely some concerns with the offense that even I was kind of bringing up last week as far as us being a bowl team, and we got to be better.
Yeah, I hope I'm wrong. We'll see. One adjustment they did make that seemed to work, and I hope it continues to work, is the new O-line, right? They shifted guys around. Tyler Brown's no longer on a tackle. He's now where he belongs as a guard. right next to Jordan Seaton. He was left guard, right? I think he was right next to Jordan Seaton. And that seemed to work well. And then who is the guy that got the nod?
Philip Houston.
Yes, thank you, Topher.
Philip Houston, right tackle.
And
he's
he
a little
solid
undersized,
too.
but he's great. He was great. And we basically sacrificed size for speed, and it showed, right? Like, we basically were like, God, we're getting killed with speed on this right end. We have this guy that's smaller and he's more nimble. And there was a couple times he did get blown back, and you could clearly see the size deficiency. And like, if he gets bull rushed or power rushed, he needs help, but he's not getting beat with speed. So I think that was kind of the improvement that we looked for in the past game. And he absolutely played his ass off.
That's what Shedeur needs. He doesn't need 5 seconds in the pocket, or at least he shouldn't. But he just needs a couple seconds. And if we can stymie at least a little bit instead of just straight up missing the blocks, I think that's a big upgrade. And I think I was probably wrong. I said that having cohesion on the O-line was really important, and obviously these guys have been playing with each other a lot in practices, but I think you're right, Topher. Like, that was a huge upgrade, and honestly, the left side, getting back to the guard position is really helpful as well. Mostly because I feel like he was able to help Zelinkas at center, which is somewhere where he really frankly needed some help. Although I do wonder. I think frankly CSU was definitely the worst defensive line we're going to play all season, other than maybe Cincinnati. So
Nebraska's really good,
right?
Yeah.
So it's hard to it's not really apples to apples that we're comparing, right? Like, yeah, it's an upgrade. How much of an upgrade? I think that remains to be seen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna add, I think this offensive line, their biggest struggle is stunts and just unique blitzes, and not even a blitz, right? Just a stunt of your defensive line crossing and coming in from another direction. I'm curious what you guys saw looking at the film. Is that kind of what you saw mainly is what they're struggling with? Because I think they're going to improve as the season goes on, just picking those up and communicating.
I'll just say that the film in that Nebraska game was so bad. Oh my God. I don't know if you guys saw that thread that I can't remember who it was, but there's someone who posted a thread of all the gaffes. Oh God, it was just so bad.
They didn't put a hand on him a lot of the time because it was just like these various stunts and they couldn't figure it out.
There were so many games like this last year too, right? This was like the UCLA game, this Nebraska game last year, even Washington State, where Shedeur got a broken vertebrae in his back, and it's just. Yeah.
But my point is, I'm hoping that comes with time, right? And I think it should. I think this O-line's only going to do nothing but improve. I really think people are kind of dogging them too much, and I think they're a lot more solid than we think.
It's a huge game for chemistry. Huge game for chemistry. Like, I know we were probably just about to bring this up, but that was so cool that they brought the offensive line to the press conference. Like, took a page out of Philip Lindsay's book. That was just so great to see, because there are a lot of people who are just dogging on Shedeur for an off comment that he made about the fact that Dylan Raiola didn't get hit that much, but he was getting hit all the time as him throwing his offensive line under the bus. But I think people are just, they hear what they want to hear out of Shedeur, right? If you listen to Shedeur, you hate him, you're going to look for any excuse to find some reason that he's a bad person and that he's just a poor character individual. But that was great. Like, in terms of chemistry, people brought this up ad nauseum. The lack of time and cohesion of bringing bits and pieces together as transfers to cobble together an offensive line. And we know that they were all spending a lot of time together in the off season. And it was just nice to have this type of a game where you can get right and feel good against a struggling opponent before conference play, and not have to go in with that really bad taste in your mouth like the Nebraska game. I cut you off, Chase. What were you about to say?
Well, I was just going to say, God forbid we give them chairs for the press conference, by the way. But the other thing I think that matters as far as it looks ridiculous. The other thing
it kind of looks like a whole bunch of gang members, but like
guards behind them.
But the other thing that's been really bad with this team and was, and I think this is probably going to start a bee's nest of response, but 12 penalties, 115 yards. Now, a lot of that is coming from the offensive line, and a lot of it's coming from false starts. And I think a big part of that is the stunts. Like, when you're playing offensive line, when a stunt might be coming, right? Defenses like to kind of fake it out and show it. And that one causes a lot of these false starts. And two, like I think having that chemistry and knowing you can trust your guy next to you to make his blocking assignment will be really helpful with getting some of those penalties down. And maybe we can talk about penalties more, more towards the end, but the penalties are unacceptable. And the fact that we got away with it is we shouldn't lose the fact that 115 yards and penalties is insane. Like that is asinine. And it's been the theme of this team. And at least, this time it wasn't as much of stupid, selfish penalties like personal foul, stuff like that. It was a lot of really bad false starts and stuff like that. And that shoots you in the foot. But I do think
blocks in the back as well.
Blocks in the back. And
receivers.
Like part of that is just your hustling and you make a bad block. I can live with those, but I think the offensive line will improve on those false starts. The longer that they're able to play together, the more chemistry they get, the more prepared, the more film they watch. Watching film really helps with those false start penalties. That was a road environment, so you're going to see a little bit of that, but I just wanted to mention that. Moving on to the other half of the team, I think if you had told me at the beginning of the year, I'm sure you would, or I would imagine you guys would agree with me. If you had told me that far and away the backbone of this team was going to be the defense, and maybe I'm being overly dramatic, but I really have been very impressed with the defense. I think the defense played well against Nebraska. I think the defense played really well against Colorado State. And they've been lights out. It helps that you have Travis Hunter back there, but I did not respect the game of the defensive line. I think I adequately respected the linebackers, in that I don't think they're all that good. But even though our 8 million time Q Wealth Management Defensive Player of the Week is a linebacker, but spoiler alert. But I think the defense has been really impressive to me.
Chase, you're going to be the Pat Shurmur stan. I'm going to be the Robert Livingston stan, and I'm going to be all about Robert Livingston. He is so good. And we joked in our chat, if Coach Prime retires after this year, we want Robert Livingston to be our head coach. But he's so good. I think he's gone after this year, and he's going to get a good job.
Sure.
If the defense keeps going where it's going, he is awesome. So he is so good. Yeah, I'm going to be the biggest Robert Livingston fan here.
It reminds me of Jim Leavitt, right? When we brought Jim Leavitt in 2015, just the instant jump in the year one, and then a huge jump in year two, where they were like a upper quartile scoring defense in 2016, and that was the backbone of that success, right? And I get that we haven't played any of those super high powered offenses yet. Well, maybe Nebraska is, we'll see, but just the early returns. Based on where we were last year and how hapless we were, what were we, 125th or something? It was just near dead last in the entire FBS. And gosh, that makes a huge difference.
And they were missing Shiloh, and I can't remember all the injuries.
Carter Stoudemire played.
Yeah, I mean, those were some big missing pieces, and they still look absolutely lights out.
Why do you guys think they've been playing so well? Like from an X's and O's perspective, what do you think about Robert Livingston's scheme? It seems like he runs a lot of man coverage
exclusively. Have we run any zone? I feel like we're never.
Yes, we have. We switched to zone in the second half. A little bit, right? Like we'd pick and choose when we're doing those zones, but Robert Livingston is very good at dialing up pressure and the right type of pressure to make sure that we're getting to them. A. Now, B, it really helps. Our DBs are very, very talented. It's unbelievably like so much easier to call a defense when you just go, I need you to cover this guy. And then he just erases him, right? DJ McKinney played a phenomenal game. Holy moly. He was covering like white on rice. That is an NFL caliber coverage skill DB right there.
He had three PDs, right? He had 3 PDs, something like that. He was really good.
He was phenomenal.
Why are they not throwing at Travis Hunter if he's too small to be playing corner out there? At least that's what I was told by
the other thing is BFN targeted Travis a lot, right? Like
he is the one that a couple times too, and it was just a bad throw.
That one where Travis said it was a push off. It wasn't a push off. They just got tangled.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know why BFN was all like, you know what? I'm going to target him a lot. And he just went at him over and over again, which was stupid. But at the same time, back to Robert Livingston's X's and O's, he gets the D-line very disciplined at shooting out and getting extension. We did a very, very good job of doing that this time. And between Nakai Hill-Green and Bentley being able to shoot the gaps, get skinny around blocks, and make and finish plays, we've effectively made running the ball very difficult, and our DBs have made passing the ball also very difficult. So we have a defense that's playing complementary football, that's sound, and it's really, really fun to watch on film.
How much do you think Warren Sapp's made a difference too, as far as like punch them in the mouth? I know people make fun of the hires as like gimmicky, you hired a celebrity kind of hires, but I really do think, I mean, this defensive line is swallowing people up. Like that, we have not been letting running backs really, even, Nebraska a little bit, right? But like for the most part, they have been really rock solid as far as either tackles for loss or you're getting 1 or 2 yards. It looks like last year's Colorado offense is running against this year's Colorado defense when the other teams are running against us. And so I do wonder, the scheme is obviously really improved, but it's hard for me to tell. I think, Phil Loadholt on the offensive line coaching as well has made a difference. So I do wonder like how much they listen and that matters versus just the schemes.
Some of it's personnel. I think some of it's personnel. Like they did, man, the Nebraska game really got a lot of overreactions, including out of me. I'll admit it. Nebraska did bounce off of that win last week and dominate pretty good FCS opponent this week. They might actually be that good potentially. Like we'll see how they progress in Big Ten play. But our personnel is a lot better. Personnel is definitely a lot better, right? We brought in all those transfers on the D line, like Sam Okunlola, Dayon Hayes.
2 words, Dayon Hayes. The sophomore, he is going to go to the NFL. I hope he stays a Buff for the next 2 years. He is so good.
Yeah. And we were missing Nwanko, but he was a revelation in that first game as well. It's too bad. Hopefully he gets back soon. But the personnel has made a big difference too. Like, and again, don't want to overreact in a positive light to this most recent game because I would say very likely to be the worst opponent that we play this year. I'd say it's going to be hard for me to believe that even like Cincinnati, Baylor, some of the teams that were ranked lower than us in the Big 12 are not improved, especially Baylor, who looked actually really good against Air Force this weekend. So this might actually be a tough game coming up. So we don't want to overreact to it, but I think the personnel, like you saw that there was a clear personnel difference. Like we were winning those one-on-one matchups, the same matchups that we were losing last week. And that's what you want to see. It's exactly what you want to see. Give basically, did you all see that episode of Shannon Sharp podcast with Ocho? And they were talking about the struggles that CU had. It's like, if you can't attack the quarterback and your quarterback's getting attacked, if you can't run the ball and they're running the ball down your throat, you're screwed. And name one of those things that CU does well. And they didn't do any of those things well against Nebraska. So personnel wise, like seeing those matchups being won against we'll say opponent that should be dominated was very promising. And I'm as great as it is seeing the coaching, I do think the coaching has to be making a difference. I can't pinpoint what those things are, but definitely the personnel's better. And hopefully that serves us well in we'll say it has to be a more favorable schedule in the last 2 years because the Pac-12 was a gauntlet that we had to face last couple of years. So yeah, promising. Definitely wanted to see that.
Another big thing with the defense is we finally have some turnovers. I was getting nervous that this team was going to have a turnover issue, but they were one of the best teams last year at forcing turnovers, and it finally came out this game. I think they had 2 picks, 2 forced fumbles, 2 fumble recoveries. They did a great job, and it wasn't just like lucky turnovers. I thought like Labonte Bentley had a phenomenal job where he stopped the run and he's like, I'm going to go for more and strip this ball right out of you. And he stripped the ball and also got the fumble recovery. The Travis Hunter pick was also just a phenomenal job by the entire defense. The defensive line forced the pressure and forced the CSU quarterback to make a bad throw right into Travis Hunter. He was on top of that receiver and was basically running the route. And the CSU receiver looked like the defender on that play. And then you even had Preston Hodge get that pick. It was just an overall really well done job by the defense. And I'm very glad that we got to see some turnovers out of the squad.
The Hodge pick was definitely also just a horrible throw. I have to point that out.
1,000%. Cardinal sin of throws.
That was horrible.
Cardinal sin across your body to the middle while you're rolling out. That would get a middle school quarterback benched.
That's a Nathan Peterman throw.
But on the other hand, Topher, tell me if I'm wrong, but I feel like the Travis interception, like that was a film interception. I know he was rushed, but Travis knew the route that was being run and literally ran the
he knew
route.
it
Like
before.
he was
Yeah.
in front of the route. Like he might as well have been the wide receiver. And that's an example of why Travis is so impressive, because Travis has to go not only learn his own playbook, but he's clearly watching film, because he was in front of that route. And maybe they just run it before. I don't know. I didn't pay enough attention to know if they'd run that play before, but like that is really, really impressive. I think he deserves a shout out on that. Because it was a bad throw. Yeah, it was a stupid decision because he should have seen him. But that's also like that's a finesse, and that's a game IQ kind of interception, at least in my opinion.
Absolutely. And Shreyas, to your point about personnel, we actually have someone that we can look at that was here last year and here this year on the D line in Shane Cokes. And he looks better this year. He looks more dominant this year. He looks stronger this year. And when he comes in, he's able to get full extension. Like, he was one that stood out on film in that interior D line that I was like, wow, he's holding his gap every single time. And it got in the way of the run lanes quite a bit. So huge shout out to Shane Cokes. His stats don't jump out at you, but his effect on the game was very, very profound on film.
Gotta love having those Ivy League guys, right? Just got the brains. You got the brains, and you're pulling the team together. You have the
Sreyas loves the nerds.
I love it.
How cool is it that he gets to go to a better academic school after leaving the Ivy League?
Don't you love it? Harvard of the West, Ivy League, or the public Ivies from the 80s, right, or something.
So we've done the offense, we've done the defense, and now it's time for special teams. But before we get started, last week I boldly took a stand with Pat Shurmur, and I literally overnight turned him into an offensive genius, which is why I am publicly saying that I am standing with Alejandro Mata as our place kicker. And I know that he is going to find
Clip Chase's quote.
He's going to find a way to turn it around.
Trashing Mata.
He is going to find a way to turn it around. I believe in him. I know he's going to turn it around. He does not miss. And all he needs, if Alejandro Mata has no fans left, it's because I'm dead. Because I will go down with him like I was ready to go down with Pat Shurmur, who is now head coaching material. We'll probably lose him over the offseason because people like his offense so much. And
he knows he's wrong. He knows he's wrong with this.
This is the hill I'm making my last stand for a second week in a row, because our team needs people who believe in them, and I believe in Alejandro Mata.
Let's go, Mata.
Topher, what were your thoughts on with that statement that I just made? In fact, not just me. This podcast is staking our entire reputation on Alejandro Mata. Now that I've said that, Topher, what were your thoughts on special teams this past week? I am not
politics now too.
Mark Bassett.
Are you about to take some more stands while we're at it?
Here's the thing. I think the crux is showing in not having a special teams coordinator. Mata's miss, it was probably his best hit of the season. Which is crazy to say, right? The ball got up. It had a really, really good ball flight. It looked like he got a good hit. He just didn't hit it in the right way. So, steps in the right direction, I guess, right? We need you to be accurate, and we need you to hit that same ball flight every time. And if you want drills and you want to work drills, I will drive to Boulder in the morning, I swear to God, and I will work with you because I care that much about your success. So let me know.
We'll clip that. Let's do it.
DM me.
We are big Mata fans. Like, we love. He does follow us on social media. He seems like such a nice kid. We'd love to get to know him at some point. I know we spent a lot of time dogging him last week, but at the same time, we really want the kid to be successful. I do have to point out that kick was also at high elevation. It was a road game, but it was still in Colorado. So
yeah. And so, place kicking is going to be a worry for me the whole season until I have proof otherwise. And it has to be proof of not only consistent snaps, holds, and kicks, but that ball has to be up, right? Like, I have to look at it and go, there's no way anyone's going to block that. And until I see that, I'm still going to be weary every time we send out the kicking unit. Even when we do that stupid swinging gate, like, we haven't even shown if we're going to fake anything out of that swinging gate yet. And I would love for us to just keep them on their toes and show what we have, right? Like, I would have loved for us to pull that out against CSU, honestly, right? Let's see what we have. Let's force Baylor to take practice time to prep for it, because that's just smart.
You're up 21 points. Try it.
Yeah,
just do it. Like, just do so they have to respect it.
Do you remember the last time we actually used the swinging gate? And it's not about using it. You should never actually use it. Hold on, no. There's a specific time we used it last year against Stanford to make it 29-0.
That's right.
So
that sounds like a good score.
Just saying. It's bad luck. It might be bad luck.
You know, so place kicking is one that I think Buffs fans, we need to be ready. That's like, we're probably going to have situations where we're in the red zone. We're going to go for it. And I think that's probably needs to
Can't
be.
have that. It's like, is Feely that bad? Am I going to be the only one that says, do we? Am I going to be the
Until
only
I
guy
see
that
him from
mentions
close
Feely?
range. Until we see him from like when I watch him warm up, I think he looks great. Right?
Or the other guy,
when he warms up,
Stoyanovich or whatever his name is.
Stoyanovich. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Stoyanovich warms up. He looks great too. Right? It's different from live snaps, live hold, live kicks, but like we'll see. But transitioning
I have to be the voice
now.
of reason. I love Mata too, but I'm wondering what's behind him.
We're gonna question it, but I don't know. We'll see. Moving
Part of me
forward, though.
wonders you guys didn't hear our public statement by the podcast about our belief. You know,
I want Mata to do well. I do. You're right. It went in one ear, out the other. Chase.
We're at altitude, and we still couldn't kick touchbacks every time. And the touchbacks that we did kick were 2 yards deep.
Mm-hmm.
That's a huge issue. That is a huge issue. And I don't know, like, Jace, you're a golfer. Take your driver out, right? I need you to swing it, and like, if you're a big leg kicker, prove it. Get it out of the end zone. You're at altitude. You're a Division I FBS kicker. You got to get it out of the end zone.
But
son of an NFL kicker. Son of an NFL kicker.
To the 1 yard line is now very valuable in the actual NFL. So maybe they are the perfect NFL kickers. They're just not good at the college level, where you're still incentivized to kick it 800 yards through the back of the end zone. But there might be, maybe they're just ahead of their time.
They're just playing the draft stock.
Right.
They're playing the draft stock game. Okay. And then finally we got to move to punting. Mark has an issue of shanking his first punt of the game, and that is really going to come to bite us in the ass one of these times. Like, if we get another compound where we go down big and Mark shanks another punt, I swear to God.
And I have to bring it up. I said this like 2 weeks ago, and in our YouTube comments, people were coming after me. And I did not think that, I say a lot of controversial things, sometimes just for fun. That was not, I didn't think that was going to be controversial. So to have people absolutely losing their minds about Mark Bassett, yeah, he had a great coffin kick. And hey, shout out. He pinned it at the 2, it went out of bounds. I mean,
that was awesome.
Great,
that was sick.
Punt. But it's also like, it's a coin flip on whether he's going to hit it with a wet noodle and send it 15 yards. And
it's not even that he sends it with a wet, like he hits it well, like with a lot of power, just straight to the sideline.
like we can't do that. Like that
was the loudest.
Chase, what's our official podcast take for Mark Bassett?
I can only do too many. At some point I can't make a stand everywhere.
We are very pro governor. How about that? We are very pro governor. His long snaps are money.
You're taking
every
a
time.
Political stance now. He's not even in. Topher, he's not even the long snapper.
I know, but like when he warms up, his long snaps are money. Like I watch that. I'm like, I talked to that guy. he's interacted with us.
Oh man, that's funny. Bassett, I will say that first shank punt, that was the loudest that stadium got all
good for them. You know what? Maybe he just wanted to give the home fans something to go home about and think fondly in their cars. Yeah, we got absolutely boat raced, embarrassed, but you know what? One punt went poorly.
We had that one moment.
One punt went our way.
And we got to do the light show one time on kind of a garbage time touchdown, and that was awesome. And I am proud to be a CSU Ram. That's what they were thinking as they drove out of the parking lot. Jay Norvell just needs more time is probably what they were thinking.
Chase, maybe that shanked punt was their TCU moment this year. Maybe that was the high water mark, and it doesn't get any better than that.
All right, don't make it personal with us. I want to be mean to them. I don't want to be mean to us.
Speaking of punt returns, though, we got to talk about Wester catching punts, because there were 2 punts that he didn't catch, and it cost us a bunch of yards. And my rant about this,
Topher was the only person who put this on the itinerary. So when he says we have to talk about, what he really means is Topher is now.
I have to talk about it.
Yeah,
I have to talk about it, but it's a big deal, right? When we have an offense that is frustratingly not efficient, as Jake has pointed out, every yard counts. And when you are the punt returner, you have one job: catch the ball cleanly. That is the first and foremost, most important job. I don't care about return yards. You have to field it cleanly. And if it bounces inside the 10, you don't touch it, right? There were 2 punts. One bounced at the 35, and we got it down at the 16. And the other one bounced at the 22, and we got it down at the 8, right? That is a ton of yardage that we lost because Wester just didn't catch it. And to be fair, their punter's a rugby kidder. It's a different type of punt. You're probably not used to it, but we cannot have those types of mental mistakes on special teams and expect to continue to win close games. So that's another warning that I'm putting out there to Buff Nation. We got to figure out this special team stuff, or we are going to lose games that we should win. So speaking on that, let's go to our Q Wealth Management Player of the Game. I'll give the Pat Shermer Defender the offensive Q Wealth Management Player of the Game if you want to take it from here, Chase.
Yeah, and because this is an ad and we do our ad reads the appropriate way, go to qwealthmanagement.com to learn more. We appreciate them for continuing to sponsor us and allow us to have our fun upgraded Twitter account. On the offensive side, I can't remember. I think we ultimately just had to decide on Travis Hunter because he continues to have a phenomenal. I mean, I don't know how you don't. He had 2 touchdowns and over 100 yards. Kind of crazy that he went back into the game to go get over 100 yards, but I actually had his receiving over, so I really appreciate him for doing that. But it could have gone a bunch of different ways. Just in general, our running game probably was deserving of it. But I know Jake's about to harp on that, but LeJontay Wester, 5 receptions, 80 yards, also 2 touchdowns, and Will Shepherd, 61 yards. Jimmy Horn Jr. was a little bit quiet in that game. And then Michael Welch with the 9 carries, 65 yards. All those guys deserving. Travis Hunter is just so disruptive. We have to give it to him again. So yeah, he'll be our Q Wealth Management Player of the Week on offense. I can go ahead and just run into defense. I don't know if we need to break this up, but on the defensive side, we had to give it to God. I mean, this guy's probably won it. I'm not kidding. Like, I think he's probably won it maybe 10 times at this point over the past 2 seasons. Levante Bentley, this time for the huge turnovers, the tackle for loss. He's everywhere. Absolute ball magnet. I don't remember who we picked for special teams. So Topher, if you want to go ahead and give that shout out real quick.
For the partially blocked punt, we're going to go with Amari McNeil. That set us up in great field position. Again, I'm going to harp on this field position battle all season because I think it's going to be a big deal for our success long term. I also want to point out Bentley, if he fields that strip cleanly, there is 0% chance BFN is stopping him. That is a scoop and score for Bentley. So that is 2 times now Bentley has had an opportunity for big defensive turnovers and scores.
I don't mind it. Get the ball.
Yeah.
There was some highlight I
don't
saw
mind it, but that's 2 times now where he's close. So I'm going to call it now. By the end of the season, he will have 2 defensive touchdowns.
Oh, I love it.
All right.
I'm also going to preemptively declare Alejandro Mata our Q Wealth Management Special Teams Player of the Week next week. I'm calling it right now. I'm calling it right now. No, I just
Chase,
believe in him that much.
Hopefully it's after 7 PATs.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And he's going to hit a 50-yard field goal. It's going to be awesome. I can't wait for it.
Yeah. We'll all be believers again.
I love it.
Honorable mention to Kai Hill Green, Deion Hayes, and CSU's quarterback. They all did very well for our defense.
Huge.
Yeah, my goodness. I keep going back to that NIL thing. That's like
it's because his muscles are so big, Sreyas. Apparently, I don't know.
Something
so big that he rockets the ball straight at Travis for an interception.
Dude, he did show a lot of promise last year as a freshman, and I could see like people being like, "Oh yeah, that's talent," but man, like the $600,000 with the way that he played against Texas, the way he played against us. Man, this is why. In some ways, like he is what other people think Shedeur Sanders is, right? Because he was like talking so much. Why? Right? Why would you do that and then lay an egg like that? Maybe you want to set yourself up for success and get those Instagram followers that you're complaining about the other team having or something. But the fact that he is legitimately could be your defensive player of the game if we didn't see great performance from Levante Bentley. You just can't talk like that. That's wild. That's like completely wild. Yeah, I'm sure all you guys have thoughts about the banter, right? It's just there's so much of this. And boy, was that sweet, right? It was sweet after the week of uncertainty coming after what happened in Lincoln to just put this to bed and say, okay, well, shout out to Romy Bean for sitting on those clips and waiting until rivalry week to post it just to like light the fire. Shout out. That's awesome. Thank you.
That was crazy that she helped.
Yeah. Really quick before we get into smack talk, because that's kind of towards the end of the game, wanted to talk about the last 2 minutes. And on that comment of the NIL deal, Sreyas, there was a player that I'm in a group chat with, and someone said, "How are you feeling?" And he said like 600 grand. It's so funny.
That's awesome.
But that same player, I'm going to keep him anonymous. I asked, "Why were you guys throwing the ball in the last 2 minutes?" And he said, "We just want to keep scoring. We want to score on CSU again." So with that, I kind of get it, right? You hate this team, and they talk so much bull junk, to quote Coach Prime, that at the end of the game, I was very mad that they threw the ball, and I was sharing that in the group.
So mad that he tweeted from our account as if it was from all of us, that we all agreed with him that the last 2 minutes was poorly handled or whatever. And 100 of you that follow us liked the tweet, which I have to imagine is just all the Nebraska fans that
and people agreed with me. No, most
of the Nebraska fans who love our
most
account.
of Buff Nation agreed with me.
We're gonna put a poll. We're gonna put a poll.
We'll put a poll. We'll put a Twitter poll.
Let the people.
Once people were able to sleep on it. I don't know. This isn't NCAA 25. This isn't a video game. Just knee it. My big concern is injuries. Like Travis Hunter, it looked like he tweaked his shoulder a little bit. He was fine because he went back into the game. I just don't want Shedeur to get hit again, and I don't want Travis to get hit again. And that's just my big thing with throwing the ball with 2 minutes left when you can knee it out and get out of there with a win and less industry. They
want to talk. First of all, it's not a rivalry, but if it is a rivalry, bury them. They've been talking trash the entire week. And this, I mean, I think these topics both collide. This was the first time. I mean, the trash talk was pretty one-sided, frankly. Like, I don't feel like Colorado was really running our mouths, probably because we learned from last year. But if they're gonna run their mouths and they're gonna talk trash and they're gonna tell us how good they are, kill them, bury them. There's 2 minutes left. Go score on them again, because that's what makes rivalry games awesome, right? Is I want the bad blood. We just came into your house. We just gave you the best crowd that you're ever gonna have in this stadium until we come back. And we absolutely punched you in the mouth. And you know what? We're going to go score another one on you because you can't stop us. We don't respect you. We don't take you seriously. And we're going to go score again with 2 minutes left, even though it's bad form. Kill them, bury them. I love it. Like, that's the kind of mojo you should have. Yeah. And I get why people are up in their feelings. It's Colorado State. Bury them. And
I will say, I feel better about it after sleeping on it. Like, I really hate it when people get mad about someone dunking at the end of an NBA game. I'm like, the clock's still running. Like, you can dunk all you want. That's what this was. So I feel
also Coach Prime hates Jay Norvell. He hates him. And like,
he was so emotional after that he was like, too.
He was like, yeah, no, we're running again. Just throw it. Shedeur, get in the end zone again. I want to send a message to Jay, right? And like his post-game press conference, I also love the fact that like I would never let Colorado players act the way his players acted. And called him out.
To that comment, if you saw the after the game thing, Shedeur should have shaken his hand. Like if you're gonna say, hey, we took the high road, that drives me crazy. Go shake his hand. You just absolutely beat the brakes off of him. He knows that he's gonna be selling insurance in 2 years and that you're gonna be in the NFL. Like, you've proven your point. There was no question about it. You left it all out on the field. Shake the guy's hand. Like, don't say that you're gonna take the high road. That drove me crazy. That's the only thing that I did not love about I don't know. And maybe it doesn't seem like I'm in the minority on that, but I don't know. I wish that we'd taken the high road the entire time while also beating the absolute brakes off of them.
So on one hand, I did see Paul Richardson and Philip Lindsay say we should have ran the ball. So shout out to them. I respect their opinion. They actually played for the team. They're huge contributors, and I respect that. My first impression is I didn't even notice, to be honest. I was like, oh, okay. I mean, the game was over. So we were
because we don't normally run the ball, right, Chase?
Yeah. I honestly didn't think twice about it. The reason why I lost my mind during the North Dakota State game is because it was a one-possession game, and by
we
not
could have
throwing the
lost
ball
it.
in first,
very
we could
different.
have lost.
Totally different situations, though.
Totally different.
situation. This game was so in hand that
Yeah.
maybe it would have been nice to get some backups, some snaps, but
Yeah.
very different. Also,
like the
with
injury risk, was definitely there, and you don't want to end up with that. I wasn't thinking twice about running up the score though, because you guys remember last year against Oregon. Oregon was still going hard at the end. They left their start, Bo Nix in extra long. It was 40. What was it? 35-0 at halftime or something, and they were still.
I've deleted that game. No longer
Yeah.
exists in my memory. There's
they're just going for blood. It is what it is. I
it's
will
a little
say,
different though. It wasn't in the last 2 minutes.
I guess so. But I don't know. I didn't think twice about it. To me, it's just another thing that I'll forget about in a couple days.
Yeah. And we will too, until someone from the national media posts, "Why did CU try to run up the score with 2 minutes left?"
because
We can't
you hate
win.
them.
Yeah. No, we
We did
can't
it for
win.
the reason that you think we did. That's why we did it. And we
The
do it.
real question is, in the last 2 minutes, if he still had timeouts, you think he would have taken them? I mean, because we had to burn them for all the personnel changes, but like,
Yeah, they probably would have. I was thinking about that too. It's like that's another reason why I didn't notice, because I thought they had 2 timeouts left, and we were just trying to make sure that we actually could run out the clock. And the way we run out the clock and get first downs with this offense is throwing the ball. Maybe it shouldn't be. Maybe it'd be great if we got more first downs running the ball. And I guess we did have a couple really nice plays today or yesterday that would validate that perspective. But overall, this was a nothing burger to me. I get that people are hot and bothered by it, but I don't care. I've already forgotten about it.
Yeah. I've done a lot of reflecting as I've slept, and I'm not as passionate about it, but I'm still like, you don't want to risk the injuries. Same thing with running the ball. I might just have to get over that and just change my frame of mind of knowing that CU's going to throw all day, and it'll be fine.
Yeah.
next year when we have freshman quarterback Juju Lewis, we'll run the ball more.
Yeah.
Hopefully, yeah.
Even air raid offenses run the ball a little bit more than we have though. So we gotta figure that out. I think we took a step in the right direction. I believe this was the first time in the Prime era we got over 100 yards as a team rushing. I believe, which is great.
That's true.
Which is great.
That's true.
Huge.
One hill I won't die on, or I will continue to die on, is penalties. And one time they had a penalty where I'm like, who cares? Was the taunting
After the
penalty
pick.
when
After
the pick when all
Travis's
4
pick.
guys were around the ball and it was on 4 players. I'm like, we're up by a bunch. Let them have their fun.
I think that's their dog celebration. They're all digging a bone for it,
It's
and they're
also-
all being
Yeah.
dogs, and that's
Like,
awesome. And that's the
whatever.
second time they did the celebration. Every time they get a
Yeah.
turnover, they look for that celebration.
I
What a
love it.
stupid. Like, imagine being the referee that's like, I'm going to throw the flag on that.
Oh yeah.
But-
Yeah.
But to Jake's point, like, this is a systemic issue. Like, these penalties have to stop, and it's going to cost us games, and it has cost us games. So that was a dumb penalty. I'll take that penalty 100% of the time. If you're boat racing teams, if this team wants to take 115 yards in penalties every game, that's fine. So long as they are absolutely curb stomping the team by 20 points. That can be maybe our trade-off after Alejandro Mata has hit his 9th field goal of the game. I do think, this was the last Rocky Mountain Showdown for a while, and we did want to at least give it, an acknowledgement. Looking at our future schedules, I'll just read through a couple of them because I think they're kind of interesting. But 2025, we have Georgia Tech at home, Delaware, and Wyoming. Wyoming's actually a bye game as well as Delaware. 2026 at Georgia Tech, Weber State, at Northwestern, Colgate, Northwestern, Northern Illinois. We don't actually get the Rocky Mountain Showdown back. We're almost there. 2028, UMass at Florida, Northern Colorado. 29, Florida at Colorado State, and then it returns. I do think, there's a lot of people. It's interesting. I think I really want to be like, oh, we're above it. It's stupid. We shouldn't play it. But there's a few things that have changed. One, my sister still, I think she's a junior or senior now at Colorado undergrad. And for the students, right, it's undeniably fun. And I think it was actually more fun to go down to Denver and take the bus and get, absolutely torched in the parking lot and maybe make it into the game. But, I do think it's really meaningful to students. And I think students are going to be very disappointed to have that game gone. And I have a hard time believing that, Delaware on the schedule is really, as exciting. And the other component was, for the long time, the argument was, well, this is a lose-lose game for us, right? If we beat Colorado State, everyone says, congratulations, you did exactly what you were supposed to do. And if we lose, it's the absolute end of the world. And you have to hear about it from Fort Collins fans. It's hard for me to say, because since I started my freshman year at Colorado, I've never seen us lose to Colorado State, but Sreyas is 1,000 years old and he knows what it's like to watch us lose that game. So I think the other component is Colorado State, this is, the recent news, going to the Pac-12 with 3 other Mountain West schools. Hopefully the Pac-12 can, I think we're all cheering for the Pac-12 to survive and hopefully pick up some schools and maintain that FBS status. Hopefully that will not be, if we were to lose that game moving forward, it will not be as big of a stain, because I do think that, even in the modified Pac-12, which will probably not be a P5 conference per se, but it will definitely be the best of the G6 or whatever it is, other than maybe the American. This new constituted Pac-12, that will not be as bad of a loss as it otherwise would have been. So I think that's promising. I'm a fan of keeping the game scheduled. I just think it's so meaningful to the state. It's meaningful to the students. I think it's a lot more fun. And now that they're in the Pac-12, they're not a Mountain West team. I don't think the downside is quite as bad there for Colorado. Good for them. They get to sell at their stadium. They're never going to do it otherwise. I think there's only benefits to it, but it is kind of sad to see it go.
So 2 questions for the group. Chase, you answered one of them. Do we want the Rocky Mountain Showdown? If so, how often? Second question, where do you want it played? So Chase, we'll start with you. You answered yes, you want the Rocky Mountain Showdown. How often do you want it? And then where do you want it played? In Denver or at home and home at both stadiums?
Yeah, I don't, with the conference realignment and stuff, it is looking more and more like there's going to be 10 conference games. And then, are we really willing to always give up our second out of conference game for Colorado State? I don't know. But as long as we have 3 out of conference games, I like it. I think we schedule it every year. I like playing it at the stadiums. There's something, I think the students enjoy going down to Denver more. I think there's something kind of fun and novel about it. But at the end of the day, unless you're selling out that stadium, it's just not as good of an environment. And while Coach Prime is here, we'll sell out the stadium. But if he moves on or whatever, I just don't see us. It's going to go back to the same. And it was kind of lame. So I'd rather have it in Folsom and Canvas, and maybe it's harder to get into, but that's okay by me.
Yeah, here's my take. This rivalry was fun when both teams were really good. It was a super, super fun rivalry. Like between 99 and 2005. Through all those years, CU wasn't great. They had 2001, which was a great season, and they made it to the Big 12 championship 3 other times, other than that season where they actually won the Big 12. And CSU is consistently at least in the conversation to be ranked those years. And I believe those games were split something like 4-2 CU in that range. I think CSU won in 2002 and 2000, and then CU won the other games. That's fun, man. That's what I really like. What I have not enjoyed about the showdown since then is it's been a battle for who is less embarrassed by the loss. And it's always going to be CU that takes it worse because as the power conference team, so to speak, despite the fact that we've been absolutely atrocious for the last 20 years, we always have to take the beating. And the moment for me where I was like, oh my God, this is terrible, is when the CSU fans stormed Folsom in 2009. That was awful. And actually, I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but that was one of the great pieces of catharsis coming out of this game yesterday, was being at their stadium and then CU beating them in their stadium. But then, obviously it wasn't a close game, so we didn't storm the field. But it was really nice to kick it back in the other side for a little bit. And I think for the next 5 years, I'm cool with this cool off. Like, let's just take 5 years and take a deep breath and collect our thoughts and not worry about this game for a little bit. I would like to support the CSU program. I didn't grow up hating CSU, right? My parents have CU degrees, but I didn't grow up hating CSU at all. I remember the Sonny Lubick years. I remember Cecil Sapp and Bradley Van Pelt, as much as the helmet spike kind of rubbed me the wrong way, of course, right? But like, I remember those guys. Like, I want to root for them, and it's a lot easier when we don't have to play them. And that's going to be nice for me, not having to think about that. When we do play it, on campus is the way to go. I really like the vibe last year. I really like the vibe this year of the on-campus games. But I want both teams to actually be good. And until then, I can't say that I want this every year. Like 2 out of every 3 years sounds good. And I CSU will never go for this, but a 2-for-1 is nice too. Like 2 at Folsom for every 1 in Fort Collins. But that could change. Like if CSU finally gets it together, they get a new coach that's competent, takes them back to where they were under McElwain before he went to Florida. They start recruiting well. They use their money and their facilities to finally become the program that they have the potential to be. Then it's an every year thing. Like that would be fantastic. It could be like an Iowa State type of deal. or Arizona State. That would be amazing. And CSU has the potential to get there. They just need to. And until then, I just don't like the game every year.
And Topher, real quick before you go, it was 1996 was the last time we played at Fort Collins. They mentioned that on TV. You wouldn't have seen that, Sreyas, but it's crazy. You know, in our lifetime, other than you, Sreyas, who's like 1,000 years old, we had never played in Fort Collins. So I think, you know, that's also worth mentioning. It's kind of cool to see us like actually go up there. I didn't mean to cut you off, Topher, but just
remember,
want to throw it
Sreyas
out.
is only like 4 years older than Chase, so
don't remind him of that.
Yeah. Yeah, Shreyas brings up great points. I think it's great for the in-state rivalry, right? Like for most people that go to high school in Colorado, you go to CU and your friends go to CSU. And so there's a lot of that in-state, a whole bunch of people that went to CSU in their student section, so you can talk trash. And like I remember in my high school experience, the high school student sections, like which one had the best high school student section was kind of a big deal. And we always like really pride ourselves on like being louder, being more organized. And so taking that energy into an in-state college atmosphere, I thought was super awesome. With that being said, it's hard for us to fill a 76,000 seat stadium at Mile High. So definitely playing on campuses. I think actually once every other year at a home and away. Every other year. So that means every single class that every 4-year degree at each institution will get one home game, one away game in the rivalry. And I think that's a great way to allow programs to build, have a check, not waste too many conference games, and then make sure that we're continuing to grow. I also think on campuses is just free advertisement for the university, right? Especially with Prime being here, we're going to get that nationally televised. So it's like a free advertisement for the university for the 2.5, 3 hours that you have a captive audience watching these two battle it out. And I think the more bad blood there is, they're going to butt heads more. And I think that kind of, it's my transition into reffing in that there is definitely some mistargeting calls both ways, obviously. And it kind of felt like the refs were kind of like, you know what, let them play. Let them kind of be physical. Let them kind of hit hard. Let them kind of have some extracurriculars because that's what people want. We want to see that bad blood. And I think that this rivalry is at a time right now where it's at the height of it's ever been at. For CSU anyways.
Yeah. To cap it off, I'll be pretty brief, then we can go into Baylor. I'm more on I don't like the rivalry as much side because it just hurts us from a football perspective. If CSU gets good, I'm all for it. I would love like an Iowa State rivalry. So I'm once every 3 years, let every student have a Rocky Mountain Showdown they have their 4 years at CU. But I don't know. I just would like to see more fun non-conference games. Plus, I'm very biased, but we got to schedule Nebraska every year. I think that's a big component in this conversation. And that's 1 out of the 3 spots already taken in theory if we do that. I think 99% of CU fans and 99% of Nebraska fans would agree with me in that game should be scheduled every year. So I don't want another game blocked up by CSU. I think it is a lot of fun. And I'm not very passionate about this take, but I kind of like it at Mile High. I love the nostalgia is not the right word, but part of it for me is nostalgia because it's been fun going down to Mile High or Invesco at the time. Was it Invest Sports Authority, I think, in my era. It's fun, right? You have the whole CU section of tailgates, and like tailgating is awesome at Mile High because it's just a huge parking lot. Granted, monetarily, it is not the best for both schools. I think Mile High takes a decent cut. So that's definitely a huge con to playing at Mile High. But another pro is you have a lot of CU and CSU fans south of I-70, and it's really easy for them to get to Mile High. Sreyas is nodding his head as me and him are both of those fans. So yeah, I kind of like that. It's kind of fun and different to have it at Mile High, but I'm not super passionate about it either way.
Real quick, Mile High, I'm not a big fan of Mile High in general. Like the new Mile High, it has a sterile NFL feel to it, obviously, because it's where the Broncos play. I don't even like really the Broncos games there. I would love for them to have a stadium that like displays the mountains more or something that's a little bit more Colorado and beautiful. But that 2015 game where we were actually the underdog, significantly the underdog, CSU coming off the 10-win season, and they were beating us.
Is this like the whiteout?
It was the whiteout.
And this is when Wyatt, the kicker that kicked in front of me
from Douglas County High
missed
School.
twice.
Yep.
That was awesome. That was so satisfying.
That was so fun. Like that, those moments are where both teams are not very good. Because CSU ended up being like a 7-win team or something that year. That was so fun. That was so fun. Like being the underdog in that game and then just pulling it out. I love
We
that.
were
So,
Were you a
not
student back
7-win
then?
team that year.
Were you a
I think
student back
CSU
then?
was. CSU was.
I was
Not
like,
CU.
CU
Yeah.
was not.
No,
a
we
7
were. We only won like 2 games that year. I think we were
Oh my
2-10.
God.
Chase, were you a student back then?
That was my
Toddler
freshman
Chase?
year.
I'm
That
gonna
was
I'm
my
gonna
freshman
defend
year.
Gramps Sreyas over here. Call you baby Chase.
That was his freshman year.
The other component, I hate Ralphie having to run in Mile High because I feel like one, the CSU fans throw things at her and that drives me absolutely crazy. And the fact that she has to run across, which is like not what she's used to. I genuinely, honestly don't think Ralphie 6 could handle that run. So there's another component that's kind of
Facts.
small. But
Well, rest in peace, RMS, for now. You'll be back someday. And until then, maybe cooler heads can prevail for a little bit. We can focus on basketball, which I think is a burgeoning rivalry. That might actually be another game where we're underdogs this year because of
Do we have a day counter of how long it's been since CSU
I was just
has
thinking
beat
that,
us in
yeah.
football?
It's since 2014, 10 years ago. That was the
So
last
it's been a
time.
while. Let's get that counter going.
Yeah.
Just keep that going.
I like that. I like the thought of that.
Barack Obama was president. Yeah.
Wow.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So let's take a look. Our first Big 12 game, return to the Big 12 game. What's better than going on ESPN and clicking Big 12 when you want to find the scores of your conference? Like the nostalgia there's great. Colorado has Baylor coming in. Both teams 2-1 coming into this game. Colorado, it's a true pick 'em. I've seen Colorado -1. I've seen Baylor -1. This is going to be a pick 'em. My suspicion is that Colorado's going to be a slight favorite right before the game kicks off. Over under 54.5. So a pretty plain Jane over under on that. I think this is a really interesting game. Just a quick recap. Baylor has just played Air Force. Everyone was very impressed by their Air Force win, but doesn't see the fact that they only scored 6 points in the first half against Air Force at home. They also played a pretty good Utah team. I think Cam Rising got hurt in that game, but lost at Utah 23-12, and then beat mighty Tarleton State 45-3. Coming into the season, Baylor was thought of as probably one of the worst teams in the Big 12. Kind of a rough time that they've had there. So let's go ahead and do our predictions. Topher, you may have watched some film. Do you want to do that before we give score predictions?
Yeah. So Baylor's coming in off of a big win from Air Force, but this Air Force team is not very good. This is a very regressed Air Force team than the one we played in 2022.
Did we beat that team?
Absolutely not.
That was the 1-11 year, Chase. Are you kidding me?
No, that was not that was a rhetorical question.
41-10 or something. It was awful.
It was terrible. But yeah, Baylor's offense, they have a pretty good mix. They had a backup QB, I think, playing against Air Force because it was a different QB than was in for them against Tarleton State, and he looked pretty solid, right? Like he was making some pretty good reads and zipping it in there. I was also very impressed with their running backs. They have some explosiveness to them. They have some bounce to them. They have some feel to them. So I think we're in for a dogfight, but given their slate of schedule and who Baylor has had to play, I'm just not super scared when I see that pick 'em. I like what I saw in CSU as far as the strides that we made forward. I think that, based on what I've seen, I don't think their D-line is anything close to the Nebraska interior D-line that we've seen. So I think we're going to be okay. I like the Buffs at home.
What's your score prediction?
My score prediction, give me 38-21 Buffs.
All right. Sreyas,
And I think that last touchdown will be like probably a garbage time touchdown.
Sreyas, before you go, I do think it's interesting. The Baylor-Utah game, by the way, was not a Big 12 conference game because Utah just refused to reschedule after they came into the Big 12 and announced it. So they left that as a non-conference game between Big 12 teams, which I think is dumb. I mean, I understand why they had to do it, but anyway, Sreyas, what's your prediction?
Yeah, I kind of, so going back to what Jake was talking about earlier, with suspicious of our offense and how I thought Baylor's defense did look pretty good. I guess, albeit against some kind of not great competition. Yeah, this Air Force team isn't the Air Force team that we're used to. It might be one of Troy Calhoun's worst teams so far. They barely, I think they lost to San Jose State. They got beaten pretty bad by San Jose State, and they barely got by like some other, it was like Merrimack or something, some kind of lower competition.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that's not a super impressive win, but it just makes you suspicious of the offense it makes you suspicious that their defense might be good, because Air Force runs such a unique offense that's so difficult to scheme against if you haven't done it often. And I don't think Baylor has. Like, has Baylor often scheduled these triple option teams? So that's a sign of a good disciplined defense, I would think, if nothing else. So I think it's going to be a pretty low scoring game. I'm gonna have to stick with my theme because it worked last week of just like weird scores, and I'll just say like CU win, we'll say 11-5. Could be like a high scoring Coors Field, high scoring Coors Field, baseball game.
All right, I can go next. Baylor. Baylor is not that good of a football team. They were not good last year. Their offensive line is very suspect. Their offense is a bit shaky, even though they put up a lot of points week 1. Their defense, too, was really not good last year. The one bright spot is their linebackers, and I think that's why they did well against Air Force. They have Matt Jones, who was their leading tackler last year, is back, and then also Brooks Miller is a solid linebacker for Baylor. Look, Baylor's for the preseason media poll was below CU in the for the Big 12 prediction, and they're one of the lower teams of the Big 12. So if we genuinely think this team is going to win 7 to 8 games, they need to beat Baylor pretty handedly, and I'm hoping we see that. My prediction is that not handedly, but winning by more than a touchdown. I have 31-17. Buffs beat Baylor. Alejandro Mata hits one through the uprights to get it to 31. There's the prediction.
All right, we're all pro Mata then, I guess. Sorry, Topher.
I do think so. Michael Trigg is their tight end at Baylor, and I do think he's going to cause us some problems in the middle of the field. I don't know what the hell's going on with quarterback for them. Just kind of looking at the highlights and stuff, but I think this is a team that's going to struggle to score against our defense. I think our defense is going to play pretty well. I think if we can defend the tight end and if we can contain the run game, they're going to have a hell of a time scoring points on us. So I think Colorado is going to get its chances, get some points scored, but I think this one's going to go under on the points total. I'm going to go ahead and call this one a 17-14 win, with Alejandro Mato coming in and kicking a 41-yard field goal as time expires to win.
Guy.
And he gets
after Pat Shurmur gets a touchdown,
he gets
himself in the first quarter,
field, and everyone is cheering, and it's going to be awesome. And next week we're going to go, wow, what a great kicking situation we have at the University of Colorado Boulder. So
sounds like Rudy.
Yeah.
It kind of sounds like the movie Rudy.
I'll take it. I don't care how it happens. I don't care if he has to shoot someone before he goes out to kick it, like whatever it takes. But yeah, maybe I care about that. But,
Chase's takes just keep getting worse and worse. And it's so easy.
And I do think this is going to be a turnover game. I think our secondary is going to be very tough to play against. I think we're going to turn it with at least one interception. It'll be pretty back-breaking for Baylor. So those are my takes. I can go ahead and close us out. Looking forward to a big win in Boulder. But thank you for listening. If everyone can please go give us a follow or subscription on YouTube. That's what we're really focusing on. I know I sound like a broken record, but we're so close to hitting our goal over there. And Sco Buffs, we'll be back next week.
Sco Buffs, baby.
Sco Buffs.